Episode 489 with Mr. Fred Van Liew is brought to you by SirThrival.com. And SirThrival is an amazing place. They have some of the best products. Daniel Vitalis is a true master. And he's got the colostrum, which helps to seal the gut and helps to heal leaky gut, as well as boosts immune system health. And he's got the hormone-related products, which are the pine pollen. Pine pollen actually contains testosterone in it, as well as the elk velvet antler. That helps with hormones as well. He's got the bone broth protein powders, which is like 20 grams of protein powder in each scoop. I love his products. I like to combine the bone broth protein powder, which is also great for your gut, with the colostrum that he's got, which is a gut healing substance. And I like to combine that with the One World Whey from Synergistic Nutrition. And those are great combinations. I highly recommend checking out Sir Thrival's products. Go through our link to grab the bone broth, the elk velvet antler, the pine pollen, and the colostrum, and all the other wonderful products that Daniel has. Go through our link and check those out. Also, consider going over to Synergistic Nutrition. What I love about One World Whey is I love the flavor. I love the taste. It's got over 20 grams of protein in each scoop. It's raw, organic, comes from Amish farms and they're grass-fed cows. Really amazing raw protein powder there from Synergistic Nutrition. And he's got the Andreas Sacred Seed Oils, too, which are incredible. These things are so powerful. And if you look into black cumin, you'll understand how powerful black cumin seed is. And they have a proprietary way of how they extract at low temperature these oils so that they can deliver oxygen to the center of the cell. So check those out. And we'll put a link to both the Sacred Seed Oils and the products by Colostrum at extremehealthradio.com/489. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on another episode here of Extreme Health Radio. We really appreciate you being on. It is my birthday today. Happy birthday to me. I'm excited to be here with you guys, sharing my birthday with you. And we have a great guest today on the show. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be talking about water, structured water, and all things water. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure many of you guys have heard of the importance of drinking structured water. There's a lot of debate these days about alkaline water, acid water. Maybe we'll get into those subjects as well. But for me, I'm just very fascinated in the structured water idea and allowing water to penetrate the cells and things like that. So we got Fred Van Liew on the show today. This is episode 489. So if you want to listen to this show on the website, you can do that at extremehealthradio.com/489. And we do 3 shows a week, and probably the best way for you to keep up to date with all of our shows is to simply sign up to our newsletter, and I send you a bunch of bonuses if you sign up. I send you an audio course that I put together on beating food addictions, as well as a great ebook that goes through all kinds of different ways to help heal the body. And so if you can do that by texting the word Get Healthy to 33444, Get Healthy to 33444 right there on your phone. I don't have a phone, so I don't know how these things work, but apparently people tell me it works. So you can do that if you like. Today, we've got Fred Van Liew from ewater.com, and this is going to be a great show about all things water. Like I said, let me turn off his mic, or turn down the show background music. He's known as the Water Doctor. His website is ewater.com, and he's been into this very intensely since 1986. He nearly lost his 3rd child to fluoride poisoning, which is crazy. 1986, all the way back then. And so he's been inherently searching and learning all about water since then, as well as other alternative healing modalities. So thanks so much, Fred, for being on the show today. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate that, Justin. I didn't actually lose my child. I almost lost him.
Yeah.
But we did find out several months later what was causing the symptoms, where he couldn't eat, and we didn't know whether he was going to wake up in the morning, and it was a horrendous time. But when we found the symptoms were all the same as what was brought out in 550 pages of documents on fluoride court cases around the country that we realized this was fluoride. This was fluoride poisoning in combination and acting as a trigger with other heavy metals and poisons in the water of Grand Prairie, Texas at the time. Wow. They had their own wells. The local water company had not released an accurate water test in years, in over 5 years, and it was poisoning, literally poisoning people, and babies were having all kinds of challenges. And it actually is what propelled me onto radio because I got mad.
Yeah, I bet. My God. How is your son doing today?
Oh, my gosh. He's the only one of my 3 kids that went on to be an Eagle Scout. He went on to buy his own home without help from mom and dad. He just bought his first car, or his truck, I should say. And
great.
Dougie is just terrific. I mean, there are always certain challenges, but there were serendipities. So as I say, he's doing fabulous. I am so proud of him.
That's great. Now, how was your son, do you think, exposed to the water that had fluoride in what capacity?
Well, it was the water coming through our tap, and I had the largest carbon block made on my drinking water at the time. I had done my homework, I had done my research, and the company that made this huge carbon block made all these claims, and they're taking out more chemicals, more things than anyone else, and they even said it took out fluorine.
Oh, wow.
Well, shame on me. Fluorine's a gas. You don't find fluorine in water. But it sure makes it sound like it takes fluoride out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And fluoride goes right through any filter because it attaches to the calcium, a dissolved solid. It is not a chemical at that point. And you, to get calcium out, you must use distillation or reverse osmosis.
Okay.
One exception are certain resins. We have a fluoride-reducing filter pitcher that reduces fluoride up to 65%, as well as heavy metals and all, but I mean, that's the only exception. I would never, ever, if you have fluoride in your water, and most do now, that I would never trust a filter of any kind to protect my children or myself or my pets from that fluoride. It is more toxic than lead, only slightly less toxic than arsenic. According to the original Merck index, they have since modified that.
Fred, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, so it's very, it's just so very toxic. It attacks your thyroid, collects in the thyroid. It disrupts all 7 collagen proteins from, even before birth. And the Canadian not dental board, but the advisory board in Canada years ago advised against giving children under the age of 3 any fluoride supplements or fluoridated water because it actually interfered with the development of the collagen protein that forms tooth enamel.
So this was
that's a little different, isn't it?
And this was a law passed in Canada?
No, not a law. This was the advisory, the dental advisory board.
I see. Okay.
It doesn't mean the government listened. Remember who runs the governments. You have your shadow government. You have your world government. You have your elite. I mean, not everyone. Many people are much more aware of the nonsense that we call our governments now, and how they're all controlled by the, puppet strings of the Rothschilds and all. So we don't want to get too political on this. I'm just saying that this last election here in the States really exposed the ridiculousness of the politics involved in elections, and how, who governs us is decided before we even get to the booth.
Amen.
With the exception of Ronald Reagan and now Donald Trump.
Yep. I think a lot of people are waking up to that, which is great. A lot of people are able to get access now these days to information that you just couldn't get access to, in the 80s and even the 90s.
Sure. Well, back when I started finding out about the fluoride, I went to my local library, and the only thing I could find on fluoride was a propaganda booklet, which said fluoride is no more dangerous than the salt in a loaf of bread. Now, how is that for a bunch of cocky poop? and that people who, this was in the booklet, people who opposed fluoride were not patriotic.
Oh, really? That's what it said?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And you notice how that is used in these by politicians a lot. It's just not politically, you're just not a patriot. you're an enemy, you're this, that, and whatever. Now they're talking about fake news. You know, if it's not government-sanctioned propaganda, it's fake news. I mean, your program, you're not mainstream. You're fake news.
Yeah, we're fake.
You got fake guests here, right? No,
yeah, fake people.
I haven't had to live through this nightmare and help other people get through this. No, this is fake news.
Yeah.
The fluoride, it's good for you. Yum, yum.
Yeah, we did a whole show on fluoride a couple years ago with Dr. David Kennedy. I'm sure you're familiar with him. Mm-hmm. He's down in San Diego, and he did a lot of research on California fluoride and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing. I'm just glad your son is doing better.
Oh, he's doing fine.
Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely fine. Again, once we knew what the challenge was, then you know what to do. That you can't really deal with something until you know what you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. And I once got bitten by a tsetse fly in South Africa, but I didn't know it. But I was having all the symptoms, night sweats, and all the challenges. And by chance, I really want to get off the grid. By chance, a Canadian doctor had come down to replace a doctor, brilliant friend of mine that had died, and his wife was here. She needed a doctor to take over the practice, and so this doctor came down, and he'd heard all about me from her. And first thing he did was take a Polaroid snapshot of me from about 3 feet away.
Okay.
And I looked at him and I smiled and I said, "So you're going to read my mail, are you?" And he looked at me and said, "You know about this?" I said, "Sure. You just captured the frequencies, off my, face, and from that you can tell what's going on, and I'll be interested to know the results."
Interesting.
And it really is accurate. It's called radionics, and of course our government doesn't like radionics because radionics can tell whether a politician is lying or not. And of course, you don't need radionics to know that. So
it's kind of obvious, right? I mean, every time they speak.
Am I helping all your listeners understand I'm not politically correct in any way, shape, or form?
Well, it's interesting though, Fred, is what you're saying now. I just find it very interesting because I would say the majority of the guests that we have on our show are saying the exact same things as what you're saying in terms of politics and our governments and how everything's is working and how things really work. And I find it really fascinating that it seems to be all the healthy people who are awake and aware of what's really going on. And when you go out into the unhealthy world, it's all the people that are eating GMOs and McDonald's and this, that, and the other, and processed food who seem to be under the spell. It's just interesting.
Well, I would perhaps turn that around, and I would say it's the people that are aware are able to be healthy. It is not because they're healthy that they're aware.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. In other words, we can take someone that's not aware, help them become aware, and then they start eating right. They start giving their body the 90 essentials that are necessary to be in the body every day, of which most people are getting 15 to 20, and trying to survive. But once they're aware and they're doing things properly, their health improves. And water truly is the key, CHI as well as KEY. But today, with the electronic overwhelm that we are exposed to, it truly is so out of control. We never have had this before. And in the last 2 years particularly, now I've been dealing with this for almost 20 years, but the last dozen have been getting more intense, but the last 2 years, it's gotten insane.
How do you mean?
I'm going to explain.
Yeah.
So anyone listening to this program, if you look at your friends, 9 out of 10 of them are starting to have dark under their eyes. 9 out of 10 are not sleeping well anymore. 9 out of 10 are tired during the day when they know at their age they shouldn't be tired. And 9 out of 10 are having some digestive sensitivities that they never had before. And you go, why would this be? 9 out of 10, right? And you look in the mirror, and you're probably right there with them, even if you're on a good diet today.
Right.
And it's because we have over 10,000 satellites roasting us with their microwave. They don't shut those off. I thought it was 8,000. I was corrected just about 3 months ago by a military man who says, Fred, it's over 10,000 now. Oh. So I no longer want to get shot into space. Then, billions of cell phones making multiple calls a day from around the world, that when you call me from anywhere in the world, I get the call anywhere in the world. You're aware of that. I never thought of that. Which means when someone calls me, you're getting zapped. Isn't that exciting? Times billions.
Yeah,
so picture a bug zapper going zip, zip, and that your cells, which are electrical, your whole body runs electrically, are getting zapped mercilessly and relentlessly with no time to rest.
Right.
And so they're shutting down from the parasympathetic, chatty, doing what they're designed to do, to the sympathetic, shutdown, wait till I feel safe again mode, and they're not able to do what they're designed to do. In other words, you're in cellular energetic shutdown.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what is happening.
It's like a blanket, isn't it, that just covers the entire world?
That is correct.
Just a big blanket.
It's affecting you as a living organism. But what about food? It's a living organism. So that same electronic overwhelm, let's include smart meters and Wi-Fi to the right, left, front of you, and some people have 2 and 3 Wi-Fis in their own home. Yeah. It's gone crazy. So it's affecting our food chain, because it's also affecting not only the cells of the food and shutting down the energetic resources that we're supposed to be eating, but the water.
Mm-hmm.
The water, never mind that it's stored in reservoirs, never mind that it's in these big tanks and towers. Water was designed to flow. Water was designed to get energized as it falls through the energized atmosphere. Lightning storms, literally. I mean, they can wreak havoc at times, but they're to energize the atmosphere. They're to literally bring energy to where there's no low energy.
Right.
Tornadoes rip through low energy areas. Tornado Valley, they call these things. It's because they're low energy areas, and when it gets too low, boom, these tornadoes come through and re-energize the area. Because it would just die otherwise.
Yeah, because tornadoes as well as hurricanes, they're all using that sort of implosion vortex energy, right?
That is correct. I mean, they literally have found hay on both sides of a window pane.
They found what?
They found hay and sometimes animals on both sides of a wall or a window pane, which means the molecular structure was disintegrated and then immediately reconstructed. That is the kind of, as you said, quantum energy that is found in these tornadoes. It is intense and crazy and unexplainable unless you understand the whole aspect of quantum energy.
Yeah.
So physics, it drives people who just understand physics absolutely crazy, because physics, they deal with the physical world.
Right.
But the real world is not a physical world. And so when you're looking at water, as well as your food today, and your nutrition, one must understand the quantum aspect of life. And it has to do with frequencies. It has to do with harmonics. And there's the right and left spin of electrons, which we use to run computers. People don't understand. Everyone uses a computer, the cell phone. The computer, a chip the size of my thumbnail, runs my entire laptop. And all it's doing is sorting right and left spinning electrons. But Fred, how can I do that? Well, it maxed out years ago. So how do they get the speeds to go faster and faster? They're using these vortexes. You see in the movie how they just step through into another dimension?
Yeah, yep.
That's all real. And I don't live in this world, but kind of half in and out.
Right.
But these guys who live in that world, like the old movie Tron, these vortexes allow them to keep accelerating the processes. But it's like a bunch of little tornadoes and vortexes into other dimensions, all happening in this chip the size of your thumbnail that they now can make for pennies. I mean, this is running our world. It's just amazing in our lives.
Yeah, it's amazing. When you look at the different areas that you see in nature of the vortex action, like you see it, if you go to the beach and you duck dive underneath a wave essentially is that vortex energy. You look at tornadoes, hurricanes, cyclones. You go to a river and you go off to the side and you see these little vortexes happening in the water. And it's almost as if nature is telling us, right?
So when water is allowed to flow, and Dr. Carl Baugh of the Creation Evidence Museum in Glen Rose, Texas, which its greatest fame is for finding man's footprints more than once in the footprints of dinosaurs, which showed that they walked the earth at the same time. That wreaked havoc with the creationists, or rather the evolutionists.
Right.
But he had studied water and did marvelous works on water, and had a great deal of influence on me. And Dr. Carl Baugh is still alive and looks terrific, by the way, because he follows what he has learned and teaches. But he taught that water sings if allowed to flow. It creates vortexes as it flows around sticks and stones, and it also breaks the electromagnetic waves around the earth when it goes over small and large waterfalls. And all of this creates energy, and it creates temperature change. So every temperature change, 1 degree of temperature change, either way, up or down, creates more energy in the water. So it means the longer water is allowed to flow freely, the higher it will energize itself. And these are the kinds of energies that support life. It's a natural design by God. And so if you get at the base of a tall waterfall, that water at the bottom will be millions of bioangstrom energy units. Bottled water is generally about 25 to 2,800. Neutral is 6,500 bioangstrom. So you can see almost all the bottled or filtered tap water is going to be in a negative energy range, which means when you drink it, it is actually sucking the life out of you. Isn't that thrilling?
Oh, man.
But you need it to stay hydrated, and your body's processes, your Krebs cycle has to create energy otherwise. But it's trying to do that with resources that are vastly compromised. So we've got all these satellites, cell phones, smushing the energies that God designed in our environment to support us. We're trying to survive on a small portion of that. We're drinking water that is supposed to contain that life-supporting energy to, help us get through that. Well, but the water is now in a negative energy range and has been for some time. And we eat food that is de-energized, and there's no source of energetic support. And it's right-spinning and left-spinning electron-based. And right-spinning electrons generally are life-depleting, which computers don't care about. And left-spinning electron activity is life-supporting. Well, some of my technologies in the past, and I'm several generations past those early technologies, the military, for instance, created coherent chaos. What does that mean? They actually created new frequencies that were left-spinning electron-based that were not natural. And here's the key. So they were sneaking through the older technologies, which most people still use. I do not.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is that coherent chaos would sneak through and still smush down our life. Well, the body's perfect intelligence, and each one of your cells has DNA, and DNA has all the intelligence that's needed for your body to function perfectly. If it has the right tools, if it stays hydrated, if it has the harmonic energetic support. So that DNA knows that is not natural harmonic energy. It knows it still treats it as chaos. It still treats it as if it's harmful, because it is. So we actually had to get technology that would block that as well.
So you're talking about not just the impurities of the water. A lot of people understand that water is impure and needs to be filtered, but we're talking here about an energetic frequency in water which can rob the body of energy itself, right?
You actually will find today that the lack of harmonic energy is a much greater danger to our lives and our health than the impurities in the water. You see, you have a liver. The word live is in liver.
Mm-hmm.
A liver can take toxins and break them down. I mean, literally can take poisons and break them down. It is the detoxifier of the body. Right. The liver is how we handle stress. If you want to handle stress, you want to support the liver, because the liver is designed to handle stress. You don't try to deal with the stress. Your body's already designed to do that, support the liver. But here's the key. If the liver has no coherent energy, and if the cells in the liver are asleep and unable to function efficiently, then you're not handling the poisons, you're not handling the stress. So you're toxic and stressed at the same time. So the key here is you can handle a certain amount of toxin. I mean, you hear about people that drink tap water and they live to be in their 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm not condoning drinking tap water, but if they have enough coherent energy, if they're somehow keeping their energetic level up, and this is not happening too much today, but it's again, go back 40 years, 50 years, it was still happening.
Yeah.
They were drinking poisoned, chlorinated, even fluoridated water, but the rest of their body function was efficient and therefore handling it, cleaning it up. Now, you shouldn't be abusing the body like that if you can help it, so it is better to clean up the water, But today, for most people that have a filter or even a reverse osmosis system, if the water coming into your house is already dead, already without structure, and you clean it up, you now, instead of having dirty, dead, negative energy water, you have clean, dead, negative energy water.
Okay.
Not a whole lot better, but it's a good start.
Yeah, it's a good start.
So you have to bring life back to the water. You have to bring structure, which is so critical, back to the water.
So tell people a little bit about, people might be listening, we have all different levels, people just getting into health, people who have been into this stuff and send me emails that are well beyond what I know. But for people that don't necessarily understand what structure is, let's talk a little bit about how water should be structured.
Okay. Well, if you look up Emoto, E-M-O-T-O, E-M-O-T-O, yeah, Emoto, Dr. Emoto, he innocently was taking pictures of frozen water from different areas around the world. And he was noticing great differences in the structure. Some would have no structure at all, and some would. And the most interesting was when he would find these beautiful hexagonal crystal structures that would be linked to each other. And he found that water, for instance, that had been prayed over, didn't matter whether it's a Christian prayer, Buddhist prayer, or whatever, but a genuine prayer, that it structured itself and was beautiful. He found water that had been just set on a piece of paper that had the word Hitler on it, that the next day that water would be frozen, and it was the most awful, ugly water picture you could possibly imagine structurally. No hexagonal structure, no. And so the best I can say is, like, take a snowflake. A snowflake falling from the atmosphere before pollution would always have just the most perfect structure, because it's coming through lightning up there in the atmosphere. It would get energized, and it had all this coherent energy inherent in it, and it just was the best water you possibly could drink if you just melted it. But those beautiful snowflakes, and you will notice the snowflakes, they're always six-sided, hexagonal.
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong now. With the drinking of the water that's structured, I've read, because I read Dr. Emoto's book. I think it's called The Hidden Messages in Water, I think, a while back.
Correct. He's got several now. And by the way, when he started, he didn't have a clue. He said he was going around lecturing and saying, now, isn't this interesting? Yeah. And people like me would go up to him and say, well, Doc, do you understand what you're seeing here? And we explained it to him, and then he started saying, and this means...
Wow. Yeah, interesting, right?
But he did the work. I mean, to give the man credit, he did the work, and he's been great in helping people understand the importance of structure.
Oh, yeah.
But you're about to say, so...
Yeah, no, so I wanted to ask you about this idea of structuring, and so as far as I understand, now correct me if I'm wrong, the reason why we want to structure the water is because... when we're drinking water, we're really drinking information, and the information is allowed to freely pass through water molecules that are structured. Is that correct?
It's more efficient.
Okay.
Water is the original memory bank of the universe. It's one of the reasons they look for water on other planets. You say, well, that's how it supports life. But really, the water, if they can get a hold of the water retains the history of what's happened. Yes, it can be wiped out, you wipe clean, etc. But water, even IBM, yes, the computer giant, even IBM tried to use water as their original, memory chip, and it would hold the information. The problem was fishing it back out was almost impossible. So they went to the so-called solid water, silicon dioxide glass. So when you're dealing with structure, it is only one of the components that allows the water to get inside your cells. Now, water has many purposes in the body. Flushing, it has to do with it carries both information and energy, but it carries the nutrients. But on the other hand, those nutrients, if they aren't broken down by fermentation in the small intestines, which isn't happening in most people now because they're too toxic and the food is bankrupt of the plant-based trace minerals that are necessary, but that fermentation in the small intestine can create tens of thousands, some say hundreds of thousands of small compounds, all different, that nourish the living organisms in the body, and then those living organisms create the vitamins on demand for the cells, those living organisms. They literally clean up the messes. They do everything.
So, Fred, when you mentioned that the water delivers nutrients, were you saying that it's delivering the nutrients that are in the water itself, or nutrients that are in the
water,
food?
Listen, the biggest poppycock, remember, marketing works. Repeat a lie often enough, and the majority of people will eventually buy into it.
Right.
In politics, they call them talking points.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear ad nauseum, no matter which politician is talking or which talking head on the news is talking, they're all saying the same talking points.
Mm-hmm.
They've established these talking points. They're going to repeat these until people believe it.
Right.
And it need not necessarily be true. That came right from Edward L. Bernays, nephew of Sigmund Freud, and he was used to put the propaganda out about fluoride that it's good for us. And that's what he said. First, try to convince the leaders or pay them off, but the second, just keep repeating, something as often enough, and people will buy into it. And he said it need not necessarily be true.
Wow.
And that is the truth. Well, if everyone's saying it, it must be true.
Mm-hmm.
So back to structured water. So structured water is just one of the keys. And the hexagonal structure, yes, allows the water to be more efficient in what it does. It lowers the surface tension. But it doesn't matter if there's no positive information in that water. If there's negative information in the water, it's going to bring negative activity into the body. Likewise, if you even think, this is why you don't want to harbor negative thoughts yourself, because you're structuring or destructuring the water in your body already. That's why you get in such a lousy mood, your body function goes back, your elimination is compromised, you may get constipated. All these things when you're upset, because you're just wiping out the structure, the energy of the fluid in your body. And you can create just the opposite with your attitude, which is why it's so important to keep your attitude up. You think it's all funky-wonky. It's not. It's really, really the key to a great life.
So in physiological level, it is actually structuring the actual water in your cells when you're happy, positive, outgoing, energetic, and things like that.
That is correct. And You see, there are two ways of looking at this. You can, and by the way, this is totally separate from the alkalinity.
Mm-hmm.
I will say it here in case we don't get to touch on it.
Okay.
Alkalinity and water do not mix. In other words, you do not want to drink water over 8 pH. That is alkali water. I remember reading novels as a kid where they would come to an alkali water source and they say, don't let the horses drink, they'll die. And then all of a sudden, alkali water, 9 pH, 12 pH, 11 pH in these acid alkaline machines is supposed to be good for you. Well, nothing in nature that alkalizes the body is alkaline. Nothing in nature that is alkaline releases energy. It's always what's left over after the energy has already been released.
And isn't all spring water that comes up out of the ground, that's acidic? That's not alkaline, right?
Mostly. But
Mostly?
the reason it's acidic is because most of it now has fluoride, because fluoride has, seeped through and hit all the major aquifers. We've been fluoridating for so long with hundreds of thousands of tons of this highly toxic waste from the manufacturer of fertilizers, the fertilizer factories, the superphosphate fertilizer factories, the smelters for metals such as aluminum, steel, etc. Mm-hmm. It's just massive tonnage of this stuff been dumping in month after month, year after year. They just try to find a way to get us to even pay for their toxic waste.
And these things drip down into the aquifers.
They hit the aquifers. When I was first getting into water, the EPA had already acknowledged that every major aquifer under the ground, these are huge underground streams, every major aquifer had been hit by man-made chemicals and pesticides already, and they were saying it'll never break down in our lifetime, which is true, except, let's go back to when I talked about when water is allowed to flow naturally. Water can bring about such a high degree of energetic tension in itself that, number one, the vortexing and all, it can flow slightly uphill. Didn't know that about water. Number two, it gets its energetic level so high it can break the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen bonds of these pesticides and man-made chemicals to where they're inert again. We couldn't do it in the laboratory. Man can't break the bonds, but nature can and has been. Is that not cool? If the water is allowed to flow.
If it's allowed to continuously flow.
Which we don't do. We build dams. We've done everything we can to kill ourselves.
Yeah, that's the whole deal, right? We build dams and we try to stop water from flowing and try to block off water and everything else.
So it gets down to personal responsibility. So as you were bringing up, all right, so shall we structure the water? Well, yes, but structuring is only part of it, because your cells, and this is the miracle, everything in God's design it's got redundancy and protections. And it's like mother's milk. The body protects mother's milk from many of the poisons that the mother may allow in her body, but it doesn't get to the mother's milk. It's really fascinating. But let's go back to the structuring. Structured water, it's more efficient. But structured water that without the harmonics that support life cannot get into the cells efficiently because they have a gating system. The gating system protects it from poisons and non-nutrients or nutrients that are in the wrong form from getting inside the cell where it could wreak havoc or damage.
So the gating system would just be the cellular membrane? Is that correct?
Well, it's in the cellular membrane. It's like little tubules in the cellular membrane.
Ah, okay.
And it's like a lock and a key mechanism.
Okay.
And it has to do with the harmonics. So it's like sirens, the old stories of, the ships hearing a siren, and being attracted to. Well, when the cells feel the vibrations of these harmonics that God has designed that support the body, they open right up. But if they don't hear the harmonics, they don't open right up until the body uses antioxidants, and to structure that water and to whatever degree possible bring a little energy to it. But it's most important to structure it and get it so that it can be recognized as positive water and allowed in through that gating system. But it becomes very inefficient.
Even structured water?
Well, the structured water is more efficient, but it doesn't necessarily have the harmonics. See, it wasn't a problem 25 years ago. The water had energy. It had the harmonics, even if it wasn't structured yet. And it was generally in about a 7 to 7.5 pH area. So all you had to do was add something that would structure it, whether it be a water catalyst or a prayer, or because prayer does work, by the way, and then it would work more efficiently.
Interesting.
But now the water is so bankrupt that it's not enough just to structure the water.
Interesting.
You have to have harmonics. So if you're using a catalyst, make sure it has the ability to introduce the life-supporting harmonics. Examples would be Quanta Water. You'll find that on the ewater.com website. It is the child of years of work by Paul Yannick Jr., Dr. Paul Yannick Jr. He was absolutely brilliant and uncompromising. And I remember when he brought it, after he just saying, I finally did it. And I had figured that if I could find the energy in water at 100 feet below the surface in 2 or 3 locations, I'd probably get what God designed water to be, because it's hard for man to corrupt something as vast as an ocean. And sure enough, I got that, and it was 2.7 to 2.8 million bioangstroms, but I had nothing in that range. I'm thinking, well, that's odd, but I notated it. Didn't tell Dr. Yannick. It was a year later he brought Quanta Water to me and the technology, and it came out to be 2.76 million bioangstroms. And so I shared with him what I had found the year before. Still had a bottle of it on my shelf. I just kept one of the 3 bottles. And so we were all excited. And sure enough, today, with the shutdown systems of people, if they just sip every hour a teaspoon of the harmonic-rich, super, super hydrating water called Quanta Water, 1 sip every hour, it will bring the harmonics of the body at the cellular level up about 1% per day. So where so many people are a 0.5%, 1%, 2% now, I'll explain what that means in a minute. They are not going to be sleeping well until they're over 30%. Under 30%, they're not sleeping well. And when you're in your single digits like that, your digestion is really screwed up, and you're tired a lot of fatigue.
So how do we know that it's bringing up the harmonics in the body? How do we know that?
Well, first of all, if you've been sipping Quanta water every hour for 5 days, and on the 5th day you start taking your nutrition again, meaning if you're taking supplements, a lot of people take them and it's like they get diarrhea. Just the body's perfect intelligence just shoots them out the other end. It doesn't have enough cell function to use the nutrition. It says, get it out of here. This is great. The better the nutrition, the faster it shoots it out. You say, well, that's nuts. No, because if the cells did anything with it, it would create messes. Reconstruction creates messes. Well, there aren't enough cells to clean up the mess. So the body's protecting itself. It's saying, hey, I'm in survival mode. I'm using every cell I got just to survive, and you're not helping. But once you get to 5% or above, which takes about 5 days, you take that nutrition of the supplements, and your body has no problem hanging on to it. Now, it's not the most efficient, but it's efficient enough where it's just delighted. Say, this is great. And after 30 to 45 days, you're sleeping well. But you say, how do you know? Well, you get someone like me, and I can tell you over the phone, or you can even text me. I'll tell you where you're at with your cell function. I can tell if you're sipping the water consistently or not. I have people tell me, no, I'm sipping it, and their cell function, they've been supposedly for a month sipping this, and they should be about 30, 40%, and they're somewhere around 22%. I say, you sip it, but you miss a lot, right? Well, yeah, because with what I do and have done for so long, I can tell.
That's interesting.
It's an energetic thing, kind of like that radionics that I talked about before.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So how
you think a thought, it's there for the universe to hear.
Now, how are the people testing themselves when you're working with them?
They're not testing themselves. The self-testing is not very reliable. The more important the self-test is, the less reliable. If it doesn't really matter, let's see, what should I eat on the menu, then it can be pretty accurate. And I teach that in my trainings, here in Dallas. But you want someone else. You want a more objective tester.
Okay.
So you'd be someone like myself, or someone locally who actually does muscle testing physically on you, someone you trust that you know gets consistent results. And look, it's a strong indicator. Don't take it as absolute gospel. But then again, all these wonderful tests that the hospitals use and the medical profession, pharmaceutical industry use, they are horrendous. Some say they're about 20 to 30% accurate, whereas the kind of testing that I teach and that I use, you'll find it's about 98% accurate.
And not only that, the medical testing damages the body through X-rays and all that kind of stuff too.
Yes. So we just it's disease management. They're not interested in a cure. The money is in managing it until you die. A diabetic, rabbit trail here. A diabetic is worth about $800,000 to the healthcare profession before that person dies, probably minus a few parts.
Is that right? $800,000?
Whereas if they told them $800,000 per diabetic patient.
Wow, that's almost more than cancer.
Yep.
Well, probably because they live with the disease for much longer.
Exactly. Yeah. You got it now. But if the doctor told them how to deal with it diet-wise, which they can, if they're type 2, 100% could turn it around with diet alone and nutrition. If they told them, they just get a $20 copay. So you see, business model, $20, $800,000. You're a sheep to be sheared. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So back to off the rabbit trail. So back over here to the water. So you want your water to not just be structured. You want it to be harmonically supported so you can get your cell function back up.
Now,
what are the symptoms of cell function shut down? Some people get told they have adrenal exhaustion. What I found in my book, that I wrote in my book, Adrenal Exhaustion and Chronic Fatigue, How to Stop the Nightmare, which you can get on highenergyhealing.com at absolutely no cost, highenergyhealing.com.
Oh, cool.
And you'll get answers in that book that you will find nowhere else. The updated version is on there. My gift to your listeners, just go there, download it, and learn. It is easy to read. It is not a bunch of gobbledygook. You pay attention, and it'll give you many years of more productive life, save you thousands of dollars, and certainly years of frustration.
And they won't teach it to you in school either, so that's always good to know.
No, that's what's frustrating. Yeah. So so where were we energetically? All right. So you need to get the cell function up. So what are the symptoms? Well, we already said, if you've got dark under your eyes, well, you're not supposed to have that. You look at TV now, and the actors, they have dark under their eyes. They're all trying to cover that up. You look at them. Look at TV 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Besides them being a lot thinner, they didn't have any dark under their eyes. They didn't have this. I mean, I jokingly say they're making all these zombie movies in Hollywood now so the actors have work, because that's what they look like.
Right.
And it's all cellular shutdown. It is not the adrenals. The adrenal glands don't even know there's a problem. It's actual cellular shutdown. They're staying in sympathetic mode, waiting to feel safe, but all of this electronic overwhelm never stops. And they're not getting any support from the food, from the water, nothing. And there is no answer unless they listen. Now, I can work on a person with what's called my ERCS-EDNA technique, the emotional DNA trauma elimination technique, and in 5 to 20 minutes, literally take someone who's not sleeping, has all these problems, and that night they'll sleep better than they slept in months or years, non-invasively, and then show them a few simple steps to make it a permanent part of their life.
So now what is this doing to the cells? It's energetically restructuring or doing something with the harmonics?
No. Like the body knows how to do that.
Okay.
See, remember, your cells have perfect intelligence. What they lack is a full toolbox, right?
Okay, right.
And they have all kinds of interference in their way as they try to get things done. So what that technique does is it removes any past trauma down to the DNA, removes negative emotions, and even spiritual interference, if it exists. You know, curses from your ancestors, demons, entities, any interference, spiritual conflict. This shuts down body function. So you want to get it removed. And I want to do it permanently. I don't want to keep seeing you. I want to get it done.
Yeah,
so that's what I've learned to do over the years. And I mean,
that's interesting.
I tell people I'm what's called a 39-year overnight wonder.
I love that. I love that.
Right.
So now, can you do this technique on water itself?
Well, the answer is yes, and it's called prayer.
Okay.
That's if you want to. It's not entirely the same. But it is. I can prove it with any kind of an energy field tester. I have a little inexpensive one where you take a typical glass of purified water or bottled water, it just goes right in, and there is no energy.
Yeah.
You put your hands around it. You ask God to bless it. You don't bless it. Who the heck are you? You ask God to bless it and raise the energy to where it brings life to your body, and you do this according to God's promise. And you hold them accountable. And in my case, as a Christian in Jesus' name, you don't have to be a Christian to do, to ask God to bless something. And then I'll take the energy field tester and boom, an inch or two away from the glass or the bottle, the field tester turns. Wow. Now you can also take a little bottle of Harmony Drops, which is my perfect balance on steroids, and you can just put a couple of drops of Harmony Drops in that water. It'll instantly structure it, instantly raise the harmonics, instantly do all that, and make the water so much easier to drink, and you take that energy field tester, and once again, inch or two away from the glass, boom, it turns. That's
interesting. So, Fred, how would someone, if someone is listening to this and they want to sort of get on a protocol of drinking better water, let's not discuss, how people are going to filter their water, because you have filters, and let's just say that they have the water itself. And it's filtered to their extent, whatever they like to do with it. Your filters are awesome. I would recommend people get your filters, but let's just say it's already pre-filtered water. How much water would they drink in a day, and would they put it into the Vitalizer Plus and add the drops later, or how does the whole protocol work, do you think?
Great. And he just introduced another term, Vitalizer Plus. People going, what's a Vitalizer Plus?
Right. Yeah.
All right. Yes, you take that water, and basically you've got to bring it back to life one way or another.
Okay.
And the best way, go to ewater.com, and you'll find everything on there I use, or it's not in there.
Okay.
Why have several items just because people buy them? I don't believe in that. I believe in what is the best and still affordable that the average person can do. And that's what you'll find on ewater.com. You will find the information on how to make wise choices in that book, Adrenal Exhaustion. There's a chapter on why water isn't just water anymore. It has a chapter on sensible water solutions. It has effective cellular nourishment. It has environmental chaos and radiation in there. It has an entire chapter on overcoming nutritional myths. And the introduction alone is worth just reading. Harmonics are the key, it says. Mm-hmm. And there are so many other chapters. That is what you need. Immerse yourself in those, because we can't get all that out in a program like this. And Justin, you're doing your very best. But, people with that book in their hands at no cost, going to highenergyhealing.com, they can make good choices. And it doesn't matter where they get them from, although, like you said, I've done this a long time. I'm known as a water doctor for a reason. Doctors themselves gave me that title many years ago because I was the only, and this is what they said, but it's true, I was the only reliable source of accurate information that was without bias, because I have no false loyalty to any equipment or even any information if you can show me that something is better or that what I believed is not true or only partially true. So I've always sought the truth. I'm not interested in being a book where everything is in print and now you can't change it.
Right.
That's not me. But principles don't change. And so I've been building on a principled approach to health based on God's design and distilling it down so it's easier and easier, simpler and simpler. And that's what you want. That's how you want to approach your water. So purifying your water, ideally, reverse osmosis. It'll be your most economical in the long run, especially if you have 2 or more people in the house. Mm-hmm. You want to use a reverse osmosis system. Now, our system, we provide a $189 energy e-stick at no additional charge, which does structure your water, takes it from that 2,800 bioangstroms to over 250,000 bioangstroms just overnight. Mm. And so and it's so much easier to drink, and it's just wonderful. Saves you a fortune in water catalysts and all. If you have that, and it doesn't cost you a dime extra.
Now, Fred, I was going to ask you about the reverse osmosis. For me, water is such a complex. I've never been able to really get a good grip on the best kind of water to drink, and people say different things. But am I incorrect in hearing? Was there a doctor a while back? I want to say her name was, you probably know about her, Dr. Hulda Clark.
Hulda Clark, yeah.
Did she mention something about reverse osmosis systems can have mold in them, or was she talking about something different? I'm not sure about what she said about reverse osmosis, but are there objections to that?
Your listeners may have found a basic truth that I found over the years. Uh-huh. And Hulda had some amazing information that she got out to us, and like parasites and all.
Yeah, she was great.
Hulda, except she died younger than she should have. She died at a good age, but much younger than she should have, because she didn't listen to others on nutrition, etc. But every doctor, every not even just genius, every expert is expert in their field, and you probably found that they're really stupid outside their field.
Yeah.
So I found every doctor, almost every healer, when it comes to water, they're totally screwed up. They don't have a clue. They've been convinced or programmed, that something is good. And so what they're doing is they're dealing with equipment. They're dealing with treatment stuff. They're dealing with product instead of, and this is how I had to approach it, what does the body need? And what it needs is water as pure as possible, not to where it's empty and aggressive, but as pure as possible, hexagonally structured, loaded with harmonic energy, and then preferably loaded with plant-based trace minerals and nutrients so it can do what it's designed to do. But you want to have the purest water possible, not deionized, not aggressive.
Not ionized, okay.
Not ionized. Yeah, definitely not ionized. And I mean definitely not the acid-alkaline ionizer water, and definitely not deionized water with the mixed deionizers like zero water. They say, our water is so pure, we're taking everything out. Well, that water is aggressive.
Now, what is the difference between deionized and ionized?
Well, the ionized is you take the acid-alkaline ionizers.
Okay.
And what they're doing is, first of all, the water has to be filthy for them to work.
Okay.
Because they're using electrolysis. And they're busting up the water molecules so it's no longer H2O, but it's OH, oxygen hydroxide. If you look up oxygen hydroxide, it's an irritant. It's an irritant to the immune system. So what it does, like chemotherapy, and it's used this way in Japan, is they use it to aggravate the immune system, giving a little bit several times a day for a few days to see if they can get the immune system to kick in because they're aggravating it, and hopefully, turn the cancer around. Or this is why you might get your sore throat disappear if you use the ionized water, because your immune system is weak, and then you aggravate it, so it kicks on, and I see there's some sore throat here. Okay, boom. But for most people, the ionized water is nothing but an irritant, difficult to drink, and can cause problems, including dehydration rather than hydration. A lot of people have ended up in the ICU at the hospital on drip irrigation after drinking this ionized water. And as I say, and it creates a highly alkali water that is not water. It's oxygen hydroxide-laden water. And you, as I said, you do not alkalize the body with an alkali. You actually impose alkalinity on the body. Now, if I were forcing you to do something other than what you knew you needed to do, how would you feel?
I'd resist.
You'd resent it. And our bodies resent us almost every day because we're constantly trying to force it, either with drugs or with things like alkali water, to do something that, it will get around to it, but it has priorities.
It's interesting what you said a second ago about forcing the body to be alkaline, because when you look at natural substances like lemon water is as far as I understand acidic outside of the body, but then so when you take lemon water, and it's much more natural if you want to have the alkalinity than it is to drink alkaline water, I'd imagine.
Let me explain the process. In nature, you take an acid. Remember, you have amino acids. You don't have a single amino alkaline. but everything in nature that alkalizes is an acid. Okay. Because when you take in an acid nutrient, it burns, releases energy, and then what you have is an alkaline ash naturally after the energy is released. But if you take an ash, like wood is slightly acidic, you burn it, it releases a tremendous amount of energy. You know that. But can you burn ash?
No,
ash doesn't burn. Right. Yeah, you can't. The only thing you do is make soap, right? Or you put that ash loaded with minerals, you put it in your garden. That's what they used to do when you had healthy plants. But we don't have ash because we don't have wood-burning stoves anymore. We have electricity, so we don't have those nice, healthy gardens in our backyard that kept us alive. So so alkaline is not what you want to put in your body. You want to put acidic in the body. The exception is like meat, red meat. You want to cook the meat. Now, raw meat, is slightly acidic. However, it's a lousy source of protein. It's difficult for the body to break the protein down. Once you cook it, it becomes an excellent source of protein, but it is now slightly alkaline. But again, in a form that the body can utilize, and is not highly alkaline, it's just slightly alkaline.
Slightly, okay.
So when you're dealing with protein source, you want it to be a protein source. But the rest, you want it to be an energy source, and the reason you want to eat those vegetables, particularly some fruit, not too much fruit because there's too much sugar, and that's our enemy today. Yep. And we'll get back to that, issue with Hulda Clark. But that's why you want to eat the vegetables, because they are alkalizing, because they themselves are always acidic. All vegetables are acidic. Some more than others, like you said, the lemon, the most acidic, and it's the most alkalizing. So back to, all right, what about, these people that say, well, you want to you reverse osmosis. It has mold. Anything can have mold. Now, the thing is, poor quality reverse osmosis has mold. Because the old membranes used to be cellulose. Now, we're going back 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah, and that was primarily when Hulda Clark was around, too. So maybe that's
exactly.
Why.
So organisms would eat. They would eat the cellulose on the membranes. So I never used cellulose membranes. I've always, from day one, used the membranes that were polymers. And today, almost every reverse osmosis is using a decent membrane. Almost all of them. But they're not using high-quality cartridges before and after and carbon. And the ones that you unscrew housings and put filters in and out, those are really bad because your plumber's got that dirty fingerprints all over the cartridges, including the one after the water's been purified, the last thing the water comes in contact with, and now their dirty fingerprints are breeding these organisms that just keep breeding and breeding because they love a dark, damp place.
Yeah.
So that's perfect under your sink in the reverse osmosis or any filter. So my systems, they're all modular. You never get to touch. No plumber gets to touch anything the water's going to come in contact with. So the sanitation, I've never had a tank go what I call foul, whereas before, my modular system, which I've had out there now for well over 25 years, before that, I could have as many as 4 out of 10 systems within 6 or 8 months would start smelling. The water would smell because it still wasn't bad bacteria. It was aerobic bacteria, but it was breeding in the system. Doesn't happen anymore at all. Number one, we keep the energy field up, and it's hard for pathogens to breed in a high energy field. The second is we never let dirty fingerprints and unsanitary conditions exist in our systems because they're totally modular.
Yeah, that makes sense. So ideally, would it be the best if someone could get spring water from the ground, and if not, go through some filtration?
There is no such thing as clean water anymore from the ground, so don't even think it. But yeah, if you want to get your best water, all right, here's the best water.
Yeah.
What do the animals drink? Every animal will drink either dew from a lily pad, like a deer, before they'll even drink out of the pond, and the pond's very low dissolved solid water. But they prefer drinking water out of a mud puddle. Look at your dog. He'll drink water out of a mud puddle before that nice, clean tap water you put in his dish next to his food. Why does he drink from the mud puddle? Because the mud puddle just came down from the sky, is loaded with energy. It's super soft. It hasn't had time to dissolve what you're seeing as mud. That's why it looks muddy, because it's now suspended solids. Those will go right through his digestive system and out the other end. But what he'll absorb is that highly structured, highly energized, loaded with coherent energy, rainwater. So what do you want? Ideally, rainwater.
So even if the rainwater is coming through clouds and chemtrails and things?
Well, you're bringing in a whole other dimension.
Right.
This is why no matter where your water comes from, you have got to purify it.
You got to filter it.
Because we've screwed up everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is, well, I get my water from here, this, and whatever. Yeah, and 100 years ago, that may have been okay.
So even if you get spring water, rainwater, dew water, whatever kind of water you get, tap water, any kind, you got to filter it.
You've got to filter it. You got to at least, and again, if it's low dissolved solids, there's no fluoride, you can just put it through a good carbon block, and you'll be fine.
You'll be good to go.
You'll be fine. Or through our filter pitcher, all right, E-Water's filter pitcher, because that will even take out parasites, bacteria, as well as any heavy metals, pesticides, chemicals. It's absolutely amazing.
So what about
for a $100 pitcher?
What about this idea that people have been talking about with homeopathic remedies of chemotherapy, or fingerprints of chemotherapy in municipal tap waters and stuff like that? How do they know that? And is it possible, if that's true, to get that stuff out as well?
Well, okay. I've been dealing with this for 4 decades now. Water remembers everything. And like medical waste, everyone's flushing these medical waste down their sinks, down their toilets, and now it's going into the drinking water, and there's nothing to take it out. Yeah,
drugs and everything.
Yeah, and then the imprint gets in the water, and the water remembers the imprint. Do you react to the imprint? Yes, for the same reasons you react to vaccinations, and even more so, the same reason you react to or respond to homeopathics.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Now, the homeopathic has removed the substance, so you just have the imprint. Now, the stupid medical profession, pharmaceutical industry, know darn well that those imprints are real, but they claim they're not, because they're dealing with just the garbage drugs, and their vaccinations are so foul and creating so many problems for people. And now we've gone from 2 or 3 vaccinations in kids after their immune systems have developed for a few days to now, before their immune systems develop, they're getting hit with all kinds of things, and by the time they're 8, 9 years old, they've been hit with anywhere from 35 to now 60 some odd vaccines. This is stupid and insane.
Yeah, and one of the things that people aren't thinking about too in our scientifically sort of bound world, where everything exists in the physical, is that these kids are taking these vaccinations or people are taking chemotherapy and radiation. But when they're urinating out and when they're going to the bathrooms, I have no scientific testing to prove this, but I suspect that there's some sort of, at the very least, some sort of imprint in what's coming out of the urine and the feces of these people getting back into the municipal water system and all of that stuff too. So,
well, for those of us that know, you're absolutely right. I mean, the testing is there and the proof is there. It's just the, quote, medical monopoly, which is, remember, this is modern medicine, not good medicine.
Right.
This is modern medicine, not effective medicine. This is modern medicine that has, taken hold of the legal and political aspect of your health, and they have gotten it so that they are the only ones, the medical profession, they're the only ones that can use the word cure. And yet they're the only ones that have never found a single cure for anything, not one. I challenge your listeners to give me a single cure that a pharmaceutical company or a medical company has found. They aren't looking for a cure. They're looking to manage disease. They don't want it to go away. They want you to pay. But now they captured the taxpayer's pocketbook through, government insurance, where they are guaranteed that they're paid exorbitant sums of money out of the taxpayer's pocket. They don't care whether they bankrupt the country, but they get you to make dumb choices because insurance covers it. What do people say when the doctor says, well, you should do sex? Well, is it covered? Yeah, okay. No, bad. I haven't had health insurance for 30-some-odd years. Wow. I'm 65 years old.
How are you getting around the old Obamacare that they're unjustly
you pay the tax.
You just pay the tax.
Do I like paying tax? No. But no one is going to tell me I have to have insurance. Now, I can't fight it because it's unconstitutional. I can't. You pay the tax.
You just pay it. Yeah.
A friend of mine years ago, multimillionaire, what do you do? If they raise the taxes, says you make more money.
Yeah.
Pay the taxes.
Yeah.
But you either change the system or pay the taxes. It's legal extortion.
It's crazy.
So with
it?
health insurance, though, that will change under Trump. Now, how well it'll change, I don't know. But if he's able to do what he wants, bring the competition back in, that's the key. If I can fly to Arizona and get treatment at half the cost, that'll get me as good or better results as staying in Texas. I'm going to fly to Arizona or drive.
Nothing wrong with competition.
Right. And whereas you look at these globalists and the Hillarys and all them, they wanted everything to be the same. And I studied in a communist country, so I understood this better than most. And you have everything the same, so you have no choices anymore. And to them, that's utopia. Everyone is the same. Same misery, same lack of resources, same lack of food, same lack of everything,
well,
except for the elite on top.
Well, better yet, same sicknesses so they can keep profiting, So
Correct.
Yeah. So with any water, people want to filter the water and make sure no matter where they get it from, a spring, a well, dew water, rainwater, tap water, whatever they do, they want to get it nice and filtered. And then
no, we're using the word filtered. A filter, a carbon filter, carbon block or carbon filter. This is what my son nearly died from. It will not remove fluoride, sulfates, nitrates, arsenic, aluminum, dead dirt minerals, salts, phosphates, detergents, or medical waste. Now, other than that, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
But reverse osmosis, this is why I laugh. A lot of these say, we're much better than reverse osmosis. We're a carbon block. A reverse osmosis has a carbon block for its polishing filter. I mean, after the water's already been purified and filtered through carbon and everything, it's polished through the only filter they're using is a carbon block, and we use it to polish the water, just to make sure the taste and any trace chemicals and that some of that imprinting you're talking about, which is really what our e-stick is for, that eliminates the imprinting.
Okay.
Use coherence to eliminate negative imprinting.
Okay, so someone could
that's built into our system. People don't have to understand it. They just have to understand I understand it and what to do about it.
So people could
make sure they're protected.
That water, and then they could structure it in a device that you have that's called the Vitalizer Plus.
The Vitalizer Plus replicates everything in nature. The vortexing, the strong magnetics, the far infrared, the flow dynamics, everything in the Vitalizer Plus is natural. And so the longer you even 9 minutes of vitalized, of water through the Vitalizer Plus will bring it to about 70 to 90,000 bioangstroms, which is typically a very supportive balancing water. If you do it at 27 minutes, you'll get it up to about 400,000 to 600,000, which is both balancing and therapeutic at the same time. Marvelously hydrating and wonderful. Now, if they get the reverse osmosis under the sink with the free $189 e-stick, it is already getting structured. It is already getting the harmonics. It is already erasing the negative imprinting, and you can drink that water straight, and it's about 250,000 bioangstroms as it comes out.
So now, when somebody puts the water into the Vitalizer, let's say they do it from the sink, how long does it stay structured once it's done being
First of all, you would never take tap water and put it in a Vitalizer Plus.
No, I mean tap water that's been filtered through your systems.
Yeah. So, and you put it in there, and then once it's structured, how long will it stay structured? Well, if you have a minimal amount of interference, like if you're not setting it near, where you have your smart meter on the house.
All right.
If you're, if you're not setting it near electrical wiring directly, in other words, the more interference, it's going to start to break down the structuring. But here's the reality. The Vitalizer Plus is designed so that you put the water in, you turn it on, you go away. You're going to come back within hours to drink that water. Well, you're not drinking enough water. So it'll last like 3 weeks or more. But you shouldn't ever be having water sitting around that long. You should be drinking it.
Right.
Keep it fresh. You want fresh vegetables. You don't want to wait till they rot and eat them.
Yeah.
Eat fresh vegetables. Drink fresh water. Keep your water fresh. That's why the Vitalizer Plus, or that's why the Harmony Drops, or that's why the Perfect Balance, or that's why the Energy Mugs. I like my Energy Mugs because, it's the way people drink things out of a mug. So whether it's milk, juice, whether it's your water, put it in the mug, and within 30 seconds, it's structured, energized, it's bringing harmonics to the body. And, been doing this for years successfully. You got others out there putting out equipment where they make these ridiculous claims, but they don't have a clue what they're doing. And I'm not trying to put people down just for the sake of putting them down, and certainly not for sales. I need more people doing this right. Because I can't handle all the hundreds of millions of people out there in this country alone. But I'm sick and tired of people using the buzzwords, 0-point energy, this and that, energy mode, and they're putting out garbage, personal protection. That's a whole other subject we'll do on another. How do you protect yourself from all this overwhelm?
Yeah.
People get sold all kinds of nonsense for hundreds of dollars, some of them $1,000, $2,000. And if they just knew how to test, they'd see it's not doing squat. Cell phone protection, EMR protection, absolutely the most important thing you could be doing for yourself and your kids on both the computers as well as the cell phone. They've got to go check it out, and you'll find almost all of this information and the most effective protection on ewater.com. All right, unapologetic, because look, we bring out a problem, you got to know how to solve it. Go to ewater.com, get informed. There are videos there. There's all kinds of information there. Go to highenergyhealing.com, download my book, become informed, and if there's someone else locally or whatever, and you can get someone else's equipment tested, and they say this seems to work good, great, go for it.
Right.
But if you want to know, and you want to be protected with a 6-month money-back guarantee, no one else offers that. I've offered that for over a quarter of a century.
I'm just looking at the Vitalizer here on ewater.com. How big is the carafe on that thing?
It's almost a half gallon.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And as I say, when you want to drink, you don't turn it on and stand there for 9 or 27 minutes. You put the water in, you turn it on and go away. So it's ready when you want to drink.
Right.
When you drink and it gets about half full, top it off, put it on there, and turn it on and walk away. That's the proper way to use it. And it has our exclusive e-crystal in there that, we're the only ones who provide the Vitalizer Plus, and again, at no additional cost, our $89 e-crystal, which makes sure it has those high vibrational mnemonics in the finished product.
That is really cool. Yeah, I mean, it's similar to probably, how just people wake up and make their coffee and they just hit the button and then go get ready for work and then they got their coffee when they want it. So it's pretty much like that.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting. Vitalizer Plus, lots of cool stuff. So if you guys are interested in going over to Fred Van Liew's eWater, it's ewater.com. And if you go through our link, that link will be available at Extreme Health Radio. Let me just make sure I get this correctly at extremehealthradio.com/489, and then they can look at all the products. All kinds of
489. Why are you making this so hard?
What's that?
Why are you making this so hard? What's that /489?
Oh, that's the show number for this particular show. So it's you're the 489th guest.
Okay, so good for you.
Yeah.
You're getting information out there. So is that what they're going to see? They're going to see that link on your okay.
Yeah.
And by the way, I know my people will love to see that, because if there is a special or something that can be offered,
mm-hmm.
and we see that they're your radio listener now or in the future, we'll make sure they are the first to get that offer.
Oh, cool.
And it may save them money. They may get them a free product. And you never know.
Okay.
But we treat those who come from people like yourself who are working hard to get the message out. The education is first.
Mm-hmm.
And the product, this is to support people who, after they're educated, we were talking about this earlier, who once they're educated, they will want to get it done right. But then who do you go to? Whom do you believe? How many times did I hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Fred, who do we believe? Everyone's saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm right. Nearly cost my son his life. And that's why I take this very seriously, and you definitely take it seriously. And I like that you're just not a in-your-face, host, because I was.
Yeah, I just want people to have...
You're great.
Yeah, oh, thank you. I just want people to have options, and I think that, like you said, it all starts with education, and what we stress a lot on the show is that, a lot of times, or actually most of the time, you're not going to get this kind of information in schools or in any kind of really anywhere other than online. And it all starts with education. So when you know about the water, about diseases, and about how to keep yourself healthy, that's step number one of breaking out of the matrix, and then becoming
absolutely
more vitalized and energetic. And then you start living your goal and your passion, and you start having more energy for those things. And just life becomes good for not just you, but for everybody else, because you're in their lives as well. So it just makes the world a better place. So like you said, it starts with education,
That is correct. You'll find hundreds of videos, testimonials, and otherwise on the web, YouTube as well as Vimeo, under my name, and people that I've used my techniques on, and or my nutrition, and or that have used my water and energy appliances, and they're all up there, and they're unsolicited. And even I go, it's humbling. It is truly humbling and very satisfying when you do it right. So in this field, like I tell, every health provider and a radio host like yourself, and I can tell that's the way you are. You do not put a dollar sign on a person's forehead when you're dealing with their health. Finances are a reward for doing things right based on what that person needs. And if you keep that in mind, it's a win-win for the people you're working with and for you.
Yeah, it's a great situation because you get to actually make the products and do the research, and we get to talk about the things that you learn and that you know and that you have available, and then we get to bring that out to more people, and you get to interact with people that may have not found you otherwise. So it's a good situation. And
hey, I'm 65. I got to keep myself healthy too.
I know, right? It's a daily process. So this is a good thing.
Hey, people don't think healers are supposed to get sick. And I tell people, I say, look, healers get sick. You're just supposed to recover quickly.
Yeah, there you go. I love it. Thanks, Fred, for being on the show so much. We really appreciate this.
All right. Well, many blessings, and I appreciate the opportunity, Justin. Let's
awesome.
do it again.
Hang on the line there really quickly, Fred, and I'll just close out the show. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This was an awesome show. I hope you had a great time. If you want to listen to the show, it is extremehealthradio.com/489, and then you can click over to Fred's websites there and be able to check out all the cool stuff he's got going on. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Let us know if we can ever help, and we'll catch you guys on the next show. Well, there you have it. Mr. Fred Van Liew from ewater.com, episode 489. You know what? There's an interesting quote a while back. I heard a quote that goes something like, if you do your, the best you can and let God take care of the rest. And when it comes to water, I think that for me, at least, water is such a complex structure. I don't even believe that our top scientists and people really understand really what water is. I think it's so chemically complex. It's so complex in and of itself. And then to try to figure out what kind of water the human body needs the most is even, now you got to intersect two different complex things, right? Water and the human body, and try to figure out what kind of water the human body needs. And then you have to figure out, okay, well, is there a time that we need acid water versus alkaline water? Fred seems to think that we do not need alkaline water ever. I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think, do you feel better when you do alkaline water? Do you do acid water? At some point with all of this stuff, it really comes down to simply trusting somebody and something, because, I mean, let's be honest. Let's face it. We're not going to spend our entire lives studying water, right? I mean, I know I'm not. So at some point, I just have to trust what certain people are saying, and follow what they're saying and just hope for the best. One of the things that we went and recently and saw Nikki Moses from NikkiMoses.com, or MosesNutrition.com. And she was talking about the energetics of the body and the energetics of food. And what she was saying was that the human body exists on an energetic level, and there's energy frequencies of all foods. Each food has their own energetic imprint and energetic frequency pattern. And I put this on our Instagram if you guys want to see that. But what she was saying was that they are coming up with some new studies these days that is indicating that the goitrogens in substances like kale and the entire brassica family, which is like broccoli, cauliflower, kale, these types of things, onions. Is garlic in the brassica family? I don't think garlic is in the brassica family, but she was saying that the goitrogens that are contained in those raw leafy green vegetables like cauliflower and broccoli and kale and things like that are much more damaging to the thyroid than previously thought. And she referenced a bunch of studies about that. And so I was thinking to myself, well, that's one more reason why it's so important to cycle your food, right? It's very important to cycle your foods. And that's one of the things I have a really hard time with. I don't know about you guys, but I get on a kick and I, start enjoying, like recently I've been doing raw eggs in the morning. I've been doing about 2 raw eggs. I'll just crack them open in a jar, Rocky Balboa style, and drink them down. And I get on kicks of things where I do things every single day, and I think it's super important. She was mentioning that you should do no more than 3 days, if not 2 days in a row, the same food, and then do a different food. So it got me thinking about during the show with Fred Van Liew that, maybe there's a time where we do acid water, do alkaline water. I don't know. I really don't know. I tend to agree with Fred, but here's my thing. This is one of the reasons why I changed my diet from being 100% raw food vegan for, what was it, 7? I think it was 7 years. Yeah, 2003 to 2010. I was 100% raw food vegan. So, I mean, that's crazy, right? I mean, you might think it's crazy or not, but I was pretty disciplined and strict about my diet, and I wouldn't eat anything that wasn't raw or wasn't vegan. So I did no eggs, no animal products, no fish, no meat, nothing. And one of the things I kept thinking about during that time was, all this theory that we have about diet and food is great, but I honestly don't think that it's possible to know what food is doing to us and how vitamins and minerals are used in the body. I think we have a glimpse, we have an idea, and it's possible to understand some basics, but to really know what's really, really going on in every person every time you eat something. Like, for example, let's say you do eggs, but Adam Bergstrom says it's important to eat eggs at a certain time of the day because of solar nutrition and chronobiotic nutrition. So let's say you eat eggs at the same time every day, and it's the right time. I think it's an evening food, eggs are. So let's say you eat them at like 6 o'clock in the evening every day and you do great. But, one day those eggs may affect you differently than another day. And if you keep doing them, for years, you might start to develop an allergy to those eggs. So to say a blanket statement like, eggs are good or bad or whatever, it's really challenging. It's really, really challenging. Our bodies are constantly in flux and our bodies are constantly changing and evolving. And I think here's the thing that really, really comes home for me is that you really need to trust your body and to be able to sit with a food or a drink, a substance, and to sit with it almost like a muscle testing and kinesiology, and really feel the vibration that it gives you when you consume it, and sort of, I don't know, be one with it. I know that sounds kind of weird, right? But essentially, it is becoming you, right? So to be able to sit and feel and not be overwhelmed with emotion of sadness or joy or anything, but just be neutral in a neutral place while you consume something and just see how it feels with you. Because we've lost that ability to really be in touch with our own senses, with our own ability to connect with our own body and what we really want and how things affect us. We're always looking to other people to tell us which water's good, which water's bad, which food's good, which food is bad, and all of these things. And so going back to my story about the changing my diet from raw food vegan to more of like a paleo ketogenic kind of diet that I have now, one of the things I kept thinking about was, if I'm wrong about this raw vegan diet, if I'm really wrong about this and my body really does need healthy fats and cholesterol and saturated fats and a lot of these nutrients like vitamin K, as far as I understand, I think does kale have or broccoli? I forget, but you're missing some nutrients that's only found in animal food, and it's possible to get those if you're really creative with how you structure your food and dietary program. But, to be a raw food vegan, you got to really have the time and energy and the money really to consume all the nutrients and things you need in order to fill in those gaps of things you would, not be getting, if you eat strictly raw vegan, right? So I was thinking to myself, okay, there are times when I let myself, slip through the gaps and I wasn't consuming enough B12 or these types of things. So I thought, what are the long-term ramifications of this? If it's correct, if what I'm doing is correct and my dietary protocol is good, then I've gotten, it's amazing, right? But, if I do this for 30 years, 40 years, what happens? What happens if I'm wrong, right? So if I'm incorrect and I'm now 70 years old, 80 years old, and I come to the realization that my dietary program was stripping my body of minerals and nutrients and things I really needed to thrive. I was almost going to say thrive. Daniel Vitalis. But, if I was depleting my body of those minerals and then now I'm 80 and now I've got some sort of condition, or maybe I'm just not feeling optimal, right? But even worse, let's say I got a condition that I can't deal with and I can't get on top of now that I'm 80 years old. And the reason behind that was because I was consuming a diet that was deficient for 40 years. Now I place myself in that person's mindset, and how much would I love to come to the conclusion that I could go back and change and fix that mistake. But that's a mistake that happened for 30 years, right? 40 years. You can't go back. So what I thought was, okay, well, maybe I will just include some animal products in my life, high quality in low amounts, right? Mostly what I do is these days I do a little bit of meat. I typically avoid red meats. And I do eggs and colostrum. Like I love the Surthrival colostrum that we do. I love doing raw eggs. Let's see, what else do I do? Oh, I do ghee. I do best with ghee, a little bit of ghee. Most of it is is food that doesn't require killing as much. I like the elk velvet antler because I know that Daniel procures the elk velvet antler in a humane way from those animals. And so, and I figure, okay, if I'm wrong about this, then at least I'm doing high quality stuff, right? It's all organic, it's all grass fed, it's all kosher and just amazing high quality. And if I'm wrong about this, I figure, okay, well, my body can just, deal with whatever's wrong. So if, let's say I make my diet mostly plants, like, what was that guy named Michael Pollan says? Eat mostly plants, plant-based diet. If it's mostly plants, and let's say 10% of it is animal product, right? So if I do 90% plants and I feel good about that and I know that's good and right, and if 10% of my diet, let's say that's toxic, let's say all the animal product is toxic, well, at least I'm giving myself 90% and I do my rebounding, I do my sauna every day, I do my qigong every day, I do my rebounding, I go out for hikes, I get vitamin D, I'm grounded. So I figured everything else I'm doing is going to make up for that 10%. And I just kind of like, it's kind of like gambling. You just kind of bet, right? So all that to say that, although I agree mostly with what Fred is saying here about water, I don't know. I've never looked under a microscope. I've never done anecdotal or clinical studies that are peer reviewed. I've never done any of that stuff, right? So all I can do is I can analyze I could just sort of see what kind of person they are. If I can, I could see their products and I can trust what they have to say and just, everything in balance, I think, as long as it's good for you, everything in balance, right? I mean, you can't do a poison. Poisons aren't good. Well, I guess a poison too, because that's essentially what plant alkaloids are, right? Poisons. But everything in balance and moderation. And I think what it really comes down to is your intention. So like he was saying during the show, if you can find some other product better than his, then let him know and maybe he'll improve his products or tell you to buy that one. But really at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is offer products, ideas, information, all that kind of stuff, inspiration, motivation from interesting people around the world. And hopefully, their stuff can help benefit your life. So, it's a challenge. This whole health game is a game of trust. It's a game of trusting other people, but essentially, at the end of the day, it's really trusting in your own body, right? So, does water, is water affected by energy? Is water affected by intention? I don't know. But here's what I know. I know that when you invest emotionally, spiritually, and energetically into life, that life just somehow gets better. Whether that's God that's making it better for you or yourself or whatever your belief systems are about that, somehow your life is better, right? So that means if you're investing in your health, if you're waking up and thanking God for your day and your life and all the blessings that you have, if you sit before your meal and just sit with gratitude and thank God for the food that you have, regardless of whatever it is, vegan, raw vegan, animal products, McDonald's, KFC, whatever it is, doesn't matter. But when you invest through appreciation and spiritual practices and meditation and things like this, when you start investing in your life, somehow your life is better. So with all that said, if you are investing in things like a Vitalizer Plus, and if you want to purchase one of those things, if you go through our link on this page, extremehealthradio.com, let's see, what is it, $489, you can check that out. But the point is that if you invest and put intention into the practice that is your life, somehow your life is better. And that's all I could really say. And, if we were going to start following scientific studies and chase that our whole lives, we'd be doing that forever. And at some point it comes down to trust and saying, you know what, I'd rather live in a world of dreams, mystery, and magic instead of, science, logic, and thought, where everything is put through the scientific process. And I love science. Science is great, but it's also a religion. And it's also an industry, which has been bought and paid for. So whenever you read studies and science this, science that, understand it's a religion. It's the atheist's religion, and it's an industry, just like any other religion, and it's been bought and paid for. So I don't like living in that kind of reductionist lifestyle where there's an answer for everything and everything is materialistic. and all of that. I do like double-blind placebo studies, and I do like science. I do think it's really important that we're not sold a bill of goods on things. But we know that the placebo effect, if you read, what is the name of that book? It was, what is her name? It's a prominent doctor who wrote about the placebo effect. I think it's called Mind Over Medicine, I think. And it's a woman doctor. I forget what her name was. Anyway, she writes about the placebo effect, and there are cases where, sometimes it's up to 30% effectiveness. So, having some intention and believing what you're doing, I think is so, so important. Putting intention and just, if you're eating a certain diet right now, just believe that it is the best diet for you until it's not. And when it's not, change it. You know what I mean? I think what happens a lot of times in shows like this and other shows is like people contradict one another, and someone comes on here and says that reverse osmosis is the best thing that's ever happened, and someone else says reverse osmosis is horrible and it's killing you, it's got mold. Then you're at the end of the day wondering, what are you going to do? And, but really, I think all knowledge is inside of us. Or some people might say all knowledge is sort of out there in the morphogenic field, in the ether, and that we can download that knowledge much like a computer does through the wireless internet and through the cloud, is that we're able to access as we can figure out how to resonate vibrationally to attract, just like an antenna does for those old time radios and TVs, where we can attract the right frequency to come into our lives. It's possible, I think, to be able to understand and to know exactly what type of water you need to be drinking, what kind of food you're supposed to be eating. I think intuitively we know how they built the pyramids. We understand all the mysteries of the universe. We just, for some reason, can't have access to it, or haven't been able to get access to it, or however you want to define it. So, I think that's really what it comes down to, because there's people on our show that contradict each other. But, if we only had a show where everybody agreed with each other, it wouldn't be that great of a show. And my desire is to offer all kinds of differing opinions. We've had everybody on the show, from fruitarians. We have Dr. What is his name? Dr. I forgot the guy's name. The guy that does the 80-10-10 diet. I forget what his name is. We had him on the show. Then we have Agenus Vonderplanets, who talks about eating raw meat. And then we have Fred Van Liew, who talks about how you should cook your meat. So, it's it all comes down to what you're drawn to and what you might need, what your body might need. So, for example, you could be a paleo person, decide that, I feel really drawn towards eating raw meat. And maybe what's going on is that the beneficial bacteria in your body and your gut is asking you for raw meat, right? Maybe. So maybe you do that for 6 months, and then you go back to cook meat because your body no longer requires that. But see, we wouldn't know any of that if we're not in touch with what our body really needs, what our body really wants. So that's why ultimately it's important to reconnect with God, to reconnect with yourself, to understand that you can tap into yourself and find out what you really need. But I particularly am drawn to the kind of work that Fred Van Liew does. I think there are frequencies that are in the water, and that the water can store energy and frequency and information. And that's really essentially what we're drinking when we drink that kind of water. So here's a little idea for you. How about doing this? Let's say you want to learn some information. Let's say you want to learn or read a book. And why not get some, filtered water, whatever kind of water you like, have it be filtered, obviously, and then run it through the Vitalizer, and then get those glasses of water and then put it on top of a book you're reading. Or even better yet, check this out. Maybe you try this. Since books and the lettering on pages are essentially just lines in space, right? And those lines in space that are the ink on the page of a book essentially are frequency patterns, right? So they carry energy with them. So what if you did this? What if you put a book down on the counter, like let's say you're reading a book you really want to read, or maybe it's a study material for, something that you're studying for work or something that you're studying for school or something like that. You have a test coming up. What if you got a bunch of water, vortexed it, and did all your magic to it, whatever you do? I like putting Crystal Energy in my water lately. I've been really enjoying the product from Crystal Energy from Patrick Flanagan. You can buy that through our link on Amazon if you like. If you click through our Amazon link and search Crystal Energy. But anyway, you can buy the drops from Fred Van Liew. You vortex your water, you put it on top of a book and let it sit overnight. And then what you could do, if you're really sneaky and snappy, if you really want to learn, what about getting the audio frequency or the audio version of that book as well, and let the audio play through the speakers to that water overnight while it's sitting on the same book in text form? Then you can take that water, and if you have a test, you can drink that water during a test. Would that work? I don't know. But I would imagine that you would have to obviously study. But then if you really wanted to ramp up your learning abilities, you can learn how to lucid dream, and maybe you could lucid dream during the night and restudy the book and reread the book during your dream. Take that water to your test and drink it while you're taking your test. Who knows, right? I mean, it's pretty crazy. I have no idea. Would that work? Who knows? I don't know. But if I was really keen on learning something that I was going to be tested on, I would do that. Why not? Go to bed, get a little audio book, play it through your iPod speakers, set it on top of a physical book after it's structured with the Vitalizer Plus, let it play all night on loop. Who knows? I mean, it doesn't take you any extra work. You're in the other room sleeping. So while you're sleeping, energy is being encoded into the water. And who knows? It's worth a try, right? That's just something I thought about and came up with, and I should have brought that up on the show. But a lot of interesting ways that water is used and encoded. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that show. It was a lot of fun. I love some of that weird sort of esoteric stuff. It's hard because the one side of my mind is saying, science, science, science. How do we know this stuff is true? Like I was asking Fred, how do we know? How do we know that these people's energy levels are being lowered by a certain degree? But then the other side, it's like yin and yang. The other side of my mind is thinking, this is, what's going on, and just accepting. So it's a balance, right? Who knows? But I think that, I think it's just really important to put some intention into your food, your water, the air you breathe. And you know what? Like I said before, if you're like with the diet that I was eating, if you are wrong, let's say you're convinced about alkaline water and you put all this intention into your alkaline water, well, I would say, you're probably a lot healthier, better off than people drinking tap water with no intention, just angry, upset, drinking tap water like that, because you're putting some intention. If it's scientifically proven that water is damaging and wrong for you, I suspect that you're making up for whatever mistake that is making in your life with the fact that you're putting intention into your program. So, yeah, it's such a weird thing, isn't it? Isn't this whole thing so bizarre? It's so strange. It's so strange. And I find it weird, too, that I was, just finding it strange that Fred sort of flipped the tables on me when I said that it's interesting that so many of our guests and people that are healthy also happen to be sort of awakened to how the world really works, and the governments, and how big pharma works, and the pharmaceutical industry and the cancer industry. I mean, all these people that are on our show somehow are awakened to this, right? And I just find it's like it's always the healthy people. It's always the people that are into health that somehow understand how the world really works. And it was interesting. His take on that was maybe they woke up first and then become healthy, and they became healthy because of it. I thought that was pretty interesting. For me, it was the other way around. I became healthy. I mean, I guess you could say that everyone at some point wakes up, and it's the waking up point that causes someone to take action on bettering their health. But I always have to say I was open-minded. I wasn't awake, definitely, before I started eating healthy. But I could say that when I started changing my diet is when I started to wake up. Essentially what I really did is I just followed the carrot. I just followed the rabbit hole. And I was always really interested in how the world really works. I was always really interested in all that stuff. Just understanding, getting to the bottom of things, trying to figure out why they're lying to us. And if they're lying to us about health and nutrition, are they also lying to us about history? Are they lying to us about everything else? Science, religion. And then you just start following rabbit trails for each of these different subject matters. And for me, I felt like it was the health aspect of changing my diet and bringing more minerals into my system that allowed me to make those changes in my mental awareness in my mind. But I don't know. For a lot of people, maybe they wake up first and start realizing how the world really works, and then they start changing their diet. Whatever the case, the diet piece is going to be in this. And I don't know about you, but when I look at my friends who aren't on the dietary path, not only do I see people that are not as aware of what's going on in the world and how systems and industries really work, but I see a closeness where they're walled off and not accepting of any new information. And these are people that are eating McDonald's and eating Carl's Jr. and eating processed food and cereals and just gumming their systems up. And it's just interesting. It's just interesting. Although that's not to say that there are, really healthy people that are also in the dark as well, because that's true too. I'm sure we all know, and people like that as well. So but I find that a lot of people that are awake are also really keen on taking care of their body and really optimal nutrition and things like that. And what I like and I see happening a lot is that people are waking up, and people are waking up in different industries. It's really cool. Like I'm seeing a lot of fighters and boxers and surfers, like Kelly Slater has done all kinds of juice cleanses. He's the best surfer in the world, and he's done all kinds of juice cleanses and fastings and all kinds of cool stuff. And he's a pro surfer, and health is not really his thing because he's a professional surfer. But when you start talking to him, you start realizing how switched on he really is. And so it's really a natural progression, right? Because I don't think it's possible to really get into nutrition and diet in a way that we're into on this show without bringing politics, government, and possibly shadow governments and things like that into it, because you start learning that they're putting people in prison for collecting rainwater, or they're putting people in prison for growing gardens on their front lawn, or they're forcing vaccines on people, or they're forcing healthcare insurance on people, Obamacare. Or, all these things all of a sudden become political. Vaccines, there's just no escaping it. Once you start going down the rabbit hole of health, it starts affecting politics. Then you start thinking, wow, what are they doing? Why are they enforcing these laws that are damaging people? Why don't they want a cure for cancer? Why do they put people in prison for claiming something cures cancer? And you start thinking, what's going on here? Like, if chemotherapy and radiation are so great, then how come they're putting people in prison? Is it because the government is so great and they love us so much that they want to protect us from charlatans? Or do they want to protect their bottom line? Do they want to protect their profits? Do they want to protect the multi-hundreds of billions of dollars a year industry that makes up the chemotherapy and cancer industry? Like Fred Van Liew was saying, $800,000 per diabetic patient. I mean, that's a cash cow, right? So then you start realizing, wow, they don't really care about our health as much as they do their profit, right? So if that's true, then what else is going on? What else could they be lying about? Is the whole thing a commercial? Is everything in life a commercial? Is everything an advertisement? Is everything out there in the public designed to rope you in to buying and being subjected to laws and jurisdictions and statutes and codes that are intrinsically designed to disempower you so that you become sick, so that you become one of their patients? Is that possible? then you start getting into some deep subjects, man. You start getting into some deep, weird, bizarre subject matters. And depending on your inclination, you can take those as far as you like as well, which just becomes a whole lifetime of study. And you start becoming like Jordan Maxwell and wondering if the government's coming after you and shutting you down and stuff like that. So, So what it really comes down to is putting some intention into your health, right? Putting some intention into your lifestyle, how you live. That's what it really comes down to. Doing the best you can and let God take care of the rest. Live with intention and put some purpose and meaning into the actions you take. Let there be reasons and let there be convictions about the stances you take, the food you eat, the types of people you hang around with, the types of thoughts that you have. Let there be conviction and a reason for each and every one of these things. And then you start bringing more intention into your life. And I think that when you start doing that kind of stuff, God says, you know what? This person wants to be here. This person has things to do. I'm going to start directing the course of their life so that they can become what they're supposed to become. That's what I think. And so doors start opening up. You start meeting new and interesting people. You start listening to podcasts like this. You start learning about new people. New people's information starts changing your life. You start sharing this new information with your friends. You start applying it to your own life. And then your life starts changing little by little, bit by bit, day by day. You start changing. And that's really how we're going to, quote, make America great again. We're not going to do it because some guy named Donald Trump said so. We're going to make it great again. First of all, we have to define what America is, which he doesn't do and nobody else does. But we're going to make America great again by how we live our life. And America's never been better than it is right now. And your life has never been better than it is right now. We live in incredible, insane, awesome times where we have access to every bit of information that we could ever want to get at the type of a button, at the click of a mouse. We have all information is available. So it behooves us to really get on board and to start learning and studying. So I hope you guys enjoyed that show. I rambled on long enough. Look at that, 32 minutes. That's a long time. All that to say, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I did. I love Fred. He's a cool guy, and I hope you check out his products. If you want to check out all of his products, just go to extremehealthradio.com/489, or you could go to extremehealthradio.com/ewater. ewater, all one word, and you can learn more about his products there if you like. What else is going on? Let me give you a little heads up and up to date with our upcoming shows. Let me pull up our calendar here. We got lots of cool stuff going on. Let's see. Today's December 9th. It's my birthday today. I would say that I've traveled 41 times around the sun, but if we live on a flat Earth, then the sun traveled 41 times around me, right? Who knows about that? That's a whole different subject matter. So next week we got Marcus. What's his last name? From trulyheal.com. We're going to be talking about ozone, and that'll be interesting. He's got a whole slew of products about ozone and things like that. So we'll be talking to Marcus. I forget what his last name. Let me see if I can pull that up here. Marcus from trulyheal.com. I don't know what his last name is. trulyheal.com. We'll be talking to him on Monday, and then on Thursday we got Dr. Dean Bonley, and we'll be talking about magnetism and sleep and his magnetic mattress pads, which I think are pretty cool. So we'll learn more about that and see what's up with those things. And then on the 16th we'll be talking about bees and autoimmune disease with Miriam Hennon. I think she's put together a documentary. I forget. We have so many people on our show, I just forget sometimes. So, yeah, that's what's going on our show. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. All right. Well, we love you, and thank you for listening. Thanks for passing this show on to your friends. Thank you for buying through our Amazon link. Anytime you make a purchase on Amazon, think about us. Thanks for bookmarking that link and using it every single time you make a purchase. We really appreciate that. That helps us tremendously. Even if you're only going to spend $5 or $10 on Amazon, it still helps us. So thank you for thinking of us before you go to Amazon and just clicking our link first. Nothing changes on your end, and we appreciate that. So thank you for your purchases on Amazon. Thank you for your purchases in our store. As you know, we have tons of great products in our store, so check that out. We're adding new products all the time, cutting edge, fun, weird, awesome products that I think will really benefit you and your health. And also thank you for your Patreon support. You guys that donate, a couple bucks a month on Patreon, I cannot tell you and thank you enough for your support. I really appreciate that. That's what helps keep our show free, and you guys are amazing. So thank you for that. And so thank you again, everyone, for passing the show on to your friends, for listening and being a part of what we do. We love you, and we'll catch you guys on the next show. Oh, one more thing I forgot to say is that we have our own membership website. If you guys want to learn more about that and diving deeper into your health conditions and health issues and getting to the root cause, not just the symptoms, but the root cause of whatever your health condition might be right now, go to extremehealthradio.com/489, and I'll put a link on that page for our private, exclusive membership community. All right, guys. Love you guys, and I'll catch you guys on the next show.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am